Boys, with technology like this, things just got real. What's up, YouTube? It's Saturday night, October 29th. According to the clock on the wall, it says it's 11:33. It's 58 degrees outside. And what am I doing? What I'm doing is what I always do on my weekends, and usually my evenings during the week. Hanging out in my shop, staying out of trouble, staying away from other humans. The public is dumb. Lord help me. I'm drinking some Earl Grey tea tonight. I have considered getting on the whiskey, but got some good whiskey waiting for me in the cabinet, but I'm not very productive when I get on the whiskey. But what are we doing here tonight? Tonight I am sorting and organizing and cleaning and throwing away and selling off. Well, not selling off tonight, but throwing a bunch of stuff away. Just cleaning my space here. This little shop, this is a detached structure. It's 16 by 16, and I'm constantly pushing the limits of maximum density for what I can have in here. But you know, when you really start looking at stuff with a discerning eye, a lot of things can go, and I'm at peace with that. I've got things I've been holding on to for 8, 9, 10 years, and they're pretty much in the same spot as to where I set them down 10 years ago, and it's time to go. Whether I throw them in the garbage, I put them in the recycle bin, or I sell them on Craigslist. It's time for things to go. And that's good. I got no complaints about that, honestly. Because there's always new stuff to come in and fill a void. What would that be, you ask yourself? Well, take a look behind me. You guys get a good vision on that? This drill press, this whole corner of the bench might look a little different to you. It's been cluttered. This corner of this bench has been cluttered for the last several years with just crap, and 85% of that crap went right in the garbage. Or in the recycle bin. I didn't sell anything that was there because it wasn't really anything worth it. It was just kind of half done and partially done projects. But it didn't hurt my feelings to see those go. But what we're looking at here is a beautiful, drill press. Stands 42 inches tall. It's 24 inches deep. The base is 24 inches deep, 14 inches wide. It's got a half horsepower, 1750 RPM motor on it. It's got 5-speed stepper pulleys on it for 5 different speeds. It's a Calendar Foundry and Manufacturing Company Beaver Power Tools. Never heard of Beaver Power Tools before, but see, got a little beaver down here. And it's made in Guelph, Canada. Guelph. I'm not even sure how to pronounce that, but it kind of looks like Guelph. Where did I come across this drill press? Let me scoot out of your way here, and you guys can get a better look. Because this thing is just badass. Ready? Badass. It is absolutely amazing. It came with this small clamp, vise. Came with this medium-sized one. This one's got a thing to be able to make you do things. Watch I don't pinch my fingers. And then old Skippy donated to the shop. He donated a Harbor Freight XY vise. Dirty. Well, now I cleaned everything up, but he donated that XY vise and 3 milling bits, a 1/4 inch. Oh, he's got a 1/4 inch drill bit. This one's 1/2 inch, 5/8. 1/2 inch, 5/8 3-fluter, and a Woodruff key cutter. And it works really decent as a mill. I was just messing around with a piece of angle iron, just doing different cuts, and there's some other pieces I was doing cuts on. And that's just going to step up my game. It is going to step up my fabrication game. Between this 1952, it was bought brand new in 1952, and the 53 Powercraft, or hear that? The coyote's eating something in the hills. Oh, that's unfortunate. It's probably a cat. It sounded like a cat. Oof. My Logan branded Powercraft lathe. Anyway, getting this home is kind of bittersweet. I got this from a good friend of mine who I've known my whole life. And by got, I mean I inherited it. And when you inherit things, well, you know what's got to happen to the original owner when you're inheriting things. Or I should say the giving person, when the getting person inherits it. So his father bought this drill press brand new in 1952 and used it until he passed away in 1969. And then my friend who I just got this from inherited it in 1969 and used it up until probably the mid-80s. My friend who owned this also has a bunch of other stuff in his garage, bunch of other tools. He came of age out here in the West Coast, Northern California hot rod scene in the mid-50s. Probably 53, 54 was when he really started cutting his teeth on hot rods. Anything fast on land, on water, and across areas where there were no roads. And he was big into street racing for the mid-50s all the way up until probably the late 70s, maybe early 80s. He used to do the those 24-hour endurance races down in Southern California, and he would street race like mad. It was fun. When he was in the hospital, we would sit there and talk about old hot rod stories and old cars he had and V8s he would stuff into these impossibly small cars to go faster. And I've known him my whole life. He's been friends with my parents, or he was friends with my parents before I was even on this planet. So between him and my father and another gentleman who passed away about 3 years ago now, I had no choice but to grow up knowing how to fix everything on this planet. Which is cool, which is absolutely amazing. It's an experience that most people don't get to experience. My dad was a master craftsman when it came to woodwork, and man, that man could build. My father could build anything. He could fix anything. He wrenched on cars. We built a lot of go-karts together growing up. The gentleman that I got this drill press from would weld. He had hot rods. He had first-gen Mustangs. I remember he had Malibu or Chevelle El Caminos, all with these impossibly huge engines in them. He had an old drag boat. It was a early 70s Tahiti hull. Oh man, just crazy stuff. And then his desert racers. And then you guys know about 3 years ago I was up in Southern Oregon when a friend of mine passed away who was a gentleman I would very closely consider my second father. And he could fix anything too. He was on that cattle ranch that I grew up on. And I knew him since I was about 1976. I was just a baby. Well, I was only a few years old in 76, but I digress. So the gentleman that used to own this thing used to rebuild engines big time. And he built engines, and he would do all his own machine work in the garage, because that's what you did back then. You didn't ship stuff out. You figured out how to do stuff. You got the tooling and equipment, and you did it. And he did this up until like I said, late 70s, early 80s, until kind of his injuries that he sustained in his younger days, because he was pretty from the stories, it sounds like he was pretty far out there, and it's amazing he got as old as he did. But his injuries kind of caught up with him, and instead of building cars and building engines and doing all the race stuff, he just kind of became a hoarder, I guess, is probably the proper term for it. About 2.5 years ago, he finally reached out to my brother and I, and he asked us if we could help him out. And now I hadn't been in his house in probably 25 years. I've been cutting his grass since I was about 6 years old. If you guys remember any of my videos, just in passing, I've never really done a video on it, but I still cut my mom's grass in the front and back of her house, and this guy lives on the same street as my mom, and just out of, because that's what you do for your seniors, I would always cut his grass, never accept a penny in exchange. I would just do it. I'm already there cutting my mom's grass. I'll come over and cut your grass because you're old and you're broken and you can't do it. Even though in his brain, I'm sure he thought he was still 25 years old. So I'd always talk to him when I was over there, and we'd carry on good conversation. But I never went into his house until, like I said, at least when I moved out of the house when I was 18, and I never really went back. But I hadn't been in his house since probably, 25 years. But a couple years ago, I went in, and I could not believe, this is a very intelligent man, but he had definitely a disease of hoarding. And my brother and I spent the next 4 months cleaning out his house to make it livable, and we hauled out about 5 tons worth of stuff, no exaggeration. And we were putting out weekly pickups for our local refuse company, and I donated to my scrap metal guy all the electronic waste and scrap metal and everything. I made a pile that filled up an 18-foot bobtail truck. He had a lot of stuff. And we didn't even do clean slate. We did probably a 40%, 35% volume reduction just to make his house livable. But he had all these tools buried in the garage in his basement, this being one of them. And when he first landed in the hospital about 2 months ago, my brother and I were there talking with him, visiting with him, talking about old times, right? And his daughter was there. Fortunately, she was there. And he said he wanted my brother and I to have the tools that were in the garage. And he's got this. And this was no small feat. This 1952 Beaver drill press. I'm not exaggerating when I say it probably weighs 220 to 240 pounds. My brother and I hauled this thing in here, and then Skippy came down when we were down here playing, and it's all of 2 people to get this thing up here. It's crazy. But he's got a lathe down there that's probably bigger than the one I have. He has he's got a line boring tool, a line boring machine with all the cutting bits and stuff to bore out cylinders, engine blocks. He's got a hydraulic shop press. What am I going to keep? I don't want anything, but I want it all, you know what I mean? He's got half a dozen engine blocks down there. 3 or 4 are Chevys, V8s, all V8 engine blocks. 3 or 4 of them are Chevys. 2 or 3 of them are going to be Ford, just by peeking at them. They're long blocks. He's got half a dozen old manifolds and carbs and piston sets and just stuff. I've got so much to go through. It's so overwhelming. Well, my brother and I. So I struck a deal with the daughter. I said, look, any tools that we decide to keep, we'll keep. Anything we decide to sell, we'll split the proceeds of the sale. Because he pretty much said my brother and I can have everything that's in the basement. I don't want everything. I just can't fit it in my life. I definitely want the hydraulic press, because I want that here. I want to build a finger brake for that. At least a brake, at least a press brake. But if I can be fancy, I'll do a finger brake. We'll see. And the lathe will probably make its way up to the ranch, along with that Sioux valve grinding machine. I should be able to do any repairs that I need up there. The line bore, am I going to build engines? Am I getting that deep into engine building? I don't know. The thing doesn't take up much space. I may keep it for a while. But I don't even know what else is in there, quite honestly, because there's so much packed in there. But this machine's amazing, and I don't have room in this shop here. The GTO lives in my garage, and I'm not going to do any heavy-duty fabricating, welding, grinding, or machine work around the car. It's just, that is just stupid. So the garage is dedicated space for the GTO. And so my 16 by 16 structure out here is where my workshop is, and I have no problem with that. I'm not complaining. This is plenty big for me. It keeps me on my toes to keep the volume down, because I'm never going to end up like him. And I'm not talking bad about him. I'm just saying that man had a disease. He had a disease of not being able to get rid of stuff. But I'm not in that boat. I have a lot of things, but Lord help me if I ever get in that boat. Just hit me in the head with a hammer a bunch of times, would you please? So I've been out here futzing around. I didn't have to do anything to this. It had been sitting there probably 30 years unused. I plugged it in, flipped it on, and it ran quiet as a church mouse. The only thing I did here, you see, I got rid of stuff. I had a stereo here, and I had some other crap in here, and I threw all that stuff in the garbage. I cut the shelf, and it tucks in here perfectly. I love it. It's a perfect spot for it. And then I put this rail along behind it, so I've got hold-down clamps, and I've got my vice grips and stuff. But yeah, 5-speed. Even the belt's still good. All I did was change the power cord. It had a 36-inch long 2-wire ungrounded power cord, and it didn't reach the plugs. The plugs are over here. So I had it was like number 16 wire. So I had a 6-foot power cord, 14-3. So I rewired it, I grounded the case, and I plugged it into my power strip here, which is grounded. And you guys want to hear it? It's set at the, it's not the middle speed, it's the 4th gear. 4th gear, I guess. No, 2nd gear, excuse me, the second slowest gear. The squeaking is the belt. This thing has grease fittings on the back here, and on the back here on the top of this spindle. And so I shoved some grease in there. I don't know if you can see the splatter marks all over the wall here. Hold on, let me take you guys off this stand. Honestly, I probably should have just left the greasing alone, but I shoved some grease in here. You see it's got a Zerk fitting here, and it's got a grease fitting right there. And you can see all the, yeah, see I just touched it. And down here and along here. I may or may not have put too much grease in that head, and it blew me out. Good thing I had an old sweatshirt on. But this thing's got a lot of travel. It's got almost 5 inches of travel, which is pretty amazing. Of course, I've got the set screws set all the way up. It's got the quill lock here for when you're doing milling. This little Harbor Freight thing is not horrible. I'm not doing precision milling, at least not right now. Of course, my creative juices, I wanted to see how it would do, and it milled that angle iron quite nicely. And these vices came with it, like I said. I may upgrade that at some point in time, but for right now, Skip said I can keep it here as long as I want it. He bought it. Turned out it was too big for his drill press. He's got like an 8-inch drill press, and it's too big for it, so he can't really use it that well. And I said, well, as long as this is here, you're always welcome to come down here and use it. You know, just call me first. Don't just show up in my shop, or I'll hit you in the head with a bat or something. But this thing is absolutely amazing. It would have been nice if it had the crank in the back, you know, with the little gears, the rack and pinion. But it doesn't, and that's all good. Little beavers. Cast iron, man. It's yeah, it's pretty amazing. So I'm going to tuck these vices over here in this corner, and I get my my workbench back, which is good. I told you I've been diligently working at keeping this shop manageable, and there's going to be at least 2 more rounds of sell-off and cleanup and whatnot. But so there's that. I'm not going to take you into his garage and show you what's going on there, because I just feel that's kind of a, I don't know. I just feel that there's some privacy there that I should respect his space. But I will show you what I pull out of there. What kind of engine blocks I pull out of there. I'm interested to see, you know, if they're early gen V8 blocks, they might be worth something. You know, they might be worth something to somebody that wants to build a 283 or something that's period correct and it's got matching numbers. I got to see if the numbers, I don't know how much he's modified them, if he's decked them or anything and ground some numbers off. I don't know. But this is the first of things to come home. Like I said, at this point, only the hydraulic press is going to come here. I'm going to take the lathe and compare it. So I'm going to bring the lathe out in the daylight. It's a little disassembled and a little buried right now. Well, the power plant is not attached to it right now. I got to bring it out in the daylight and see what size it is. I think it's at least, this is a 10 by 24. It might be the same. It might be a little bit bigger. It's hard to say. I'm still dirty from when I built those tap heads. And likely this will stay here. Originally I was going to bring it home and compare the two and see which one was in better shape. Keep the better one here. And I may still do that. That one may come out of the shadows and just be a super fly pimp daddy lathe, and then I'll take this one up to the ranch. I don't know. We'll see. I'm just kind of I'm just still kind of overwhelmed with everything that's got to be cleaned out of that house, and keep you guys in the loop. So there it is. I've never heard of Beaver power tools before. I mean, I don't mind Beaver. Nothing wrong with Beaver. It doesn't look like this beaver has been wet in a long time, because there's, that's just disgusting. Get your mind out of the gutter. I came in here with some WD-40 and some fine steel wool and just kind of cleaned up. There was some very, very light surface rust on there. But overall, there's some chips on here now from when I was playing with this thing. Everything was so nice and clean. Alright. Well, I don't know if this interests anybody, and if anybody's ever worked with this brand power tool before, let me know what you think. But I figure if this thing's from 1952 and there's no play in the head stock here, the drill head, and this is a tapered, what are we hitting here? I didn't tighten down the blade guard. Where's the thing? Oh, it's back here. I can't see it. There it is. See, it's a five level pulley, half-horse motor, and this is a Jacob's Chuck. It is a 6A taper, 33 taper, cap 0, capacity 0 to 1/2 inch. So it's a 1/2 inch drill. Yeah, 33 taper, 6A. So yeah, I'm probably gonna start, not right now, but I'm gonna start keeping an eye out very soon for a cross slide table that's got a little more precision than this. But if I come across anything, I'm certainly gonna give it a whirl on that first. I'm not sitting here building super fancy stuff. But anyway, this has gone on way too long. I gotta go, gotta run. See ya.